The damaged ships limped through space toward Earth's outer defense stations. Their hulls were cracked and bleeding some kind of green fluid that glowed softly in the darkness. Commander Sarah Chen watched from the bridge of the defense station as the alien vessels approached. She had never seen ships like these before. "They're requesting permission to dock," reported Lieutenant Hayes from his communication station. "But Commander, their language is strange. It sounds almost like singing." Sarah frowned. In the 3 years since humanity had joined the galactic community, they had learned to expect trouble. Most alien species either ignored humans or treated them like dangerous children who had found their parents' weapons. The last time unknown ships approached Earth, it had led to a 6-month war. "Let them dock at Bay 7, Sarah decided, "but keep our weapons ready." The largest alien ship slowly moved into the docking bay. Sarah could see through the transparent walls that the ship was alive somehow. Its surface moved like breathing, and those cracks in the hull were slowly closing themselves. The green fluid had stopped flowing out. 20 minutes later, Sarah stood in the reception area as the alien delegation approached. She tried not to stare, but they were unlike any species she had met. They were roughly human-sized, but thinner, with skin that looked like it was made of clear crystal. Soft blue and purple lights moved under their skin in patterns that reminded Sarah of underwater creatures she had seen in Earth's oceans. The leader stepped forward. When it spoke, Sarah understood why Hayes had described their language as singing. The alien's voice rose and fell like music, even when speaking human words. "I am Zephys Ka of the Kithara people," the alien said. "We come seeking help from the humans of Earth." Sarah gestured to the chairs around the meeting table. "Please, sit. I'm Commander Chen. What kind of help do you need?" Zephys Ka's lights flickered faster under his skin. Sarah was beginning to think this might be how his people showed emotion. "Our world is gone," he said simply. "Our people are scattered across the galaxy, like seeds in the wind. We have nowhere left to run." "Who destroyed your world?" Sarah asked. "The galactic hegemony," Zephys Ka replied. The lights under his skin turned darker. "They say we are defective. They say we are a disease that spreads weakness through the galaxy." Sarah had heard of the hegemony. They controlled most of the galaxy's military power and made the rules that other species followed. Earth had fought them 3 times and somehow won, but barely. Most humans thought they had just been lucky. "Why do they call you defective?" Sarah asked. Zephys Ka was quiet for a moment. Then he held up his hands. Sarah gasped as she watched. His fingers changed shape, becoming longer and more delicate. Small tools seemed to grow from his fingertips. "We cannot make weapons of war," he explained. "Our bodies, our ships, our technology, everything we create is designed to heal and help, never to harm. The hegemony believes this makes us useless." "But that's amazing," Sarah said. "Your ships were healing themselves as you arrived." "Yes," Zephys Ka nodded. "We can grow ships that repair damage, create medicines that cure diseases thought impossible to treat, and make plants that can turn dead worlds green again. But we cannot make guns or bombs or warships that kill." Sarah was beginning to understand. "And the hegemony thinks that makes you weak." "Not just weak." Zephys Ka's voice became sadder. "They believe our way of thinking spreads to other species. They have seen worlds that trade with us become more peaceful, more focused on creation instead of destruction. They call this the Kithara infection, and believe it must be stopped." Sarah felt anger building in her chest. "So they decided to wipe you out." "They gave us a choice," Zephys Ka explained. "Become slaves and use our abilities to make weapons for them or face complete destruction. Most of our people chose to flee rather than see our gifts used to harm others." "How many of you escaped?" "Perhaps 2 million, scattered in small groups across hundreds of refugee ships. We have been running for 2 years now. No species will help us because they fear the hegemony's anger." Sarah looked around the table at her officers. She could see they were as moved as she was by the alien's story. "Why come to us? Humans are new to galactic politics. We're not exactly popular with the hegemony ourselves." For the first time, Zephys Ka's skin lights brightened. We have heard stories. 3 times the hegemony sent fleets to test your strength. 3 times you drove them away even though they had better technology and more ships. The other species whisper that humans fight differently. They say you protect each other in ways the galaxy has forgotten. Sarah thought about the battles Zephys Ka mentioned. Each time human forces had been outnumbered and outgunned, but they had won because they refused to abandon their people. When alien forces attacked civilian targets, human military units had thrown themselves into hopeless fights to protect them. The hegemony had expected humans to calculate odds and retreat. Instead, they had fought harder when protecting others than when protecting themselves. We do not ask for your soldiers or your ships, Zephys Ka continued. We ask only for a place to live and grow. In return, we offer everything we know. Our medicine could help your people live longer, healthier lives. Our growing techniques could feed your expanding colonies. Our ships could teach your engineers new ways to build. Sarah's communication officer interrupted. Commander, we're getting a message from Earth. The President wants to speak with you immediately. Zephys Ka, would you be willing to speak with our leaders on Earth? Of course, the Cathara replied. Though I should warn you, the hegemony monitors all galactic communications. If your leaders agree to help us, the hegemony will know within hours. And they'll consider that a hostile act against them, Sarah realized. Yes. Any species that helps the Cathara becomes an enemy of the hegemony. Sarah stood up. Then we better make sure our answer is worth the consequences. Hayes, prepare a secure channel to Earth and get me Admiral Harrison. As Sarah walked toward the communication room, she thought about what Zephys Ka had said. The hegemony believed the Cathara way of thinking was infectious. That species who worked with them became more peaceful and creative instead of warlike. Maybe that was exactly what the galaxy needed. An hour later, Sarah sat in the communication room with Zephys Ka beside her. On the screen, President Martinez looked tired. Behind him, she could see other government officials arguing quietly. Commander, Chen, the president said, I've been briefed on the situation. This is not an easy decision. The hegemony has already made it clear they consider us a problem species. Helping the Cathara might push them to more direct action against Earth. Mr. President, Sarah replied, I've seen what these people can do. Their technology could revolutionize everything from medicine to space travel. And they're asking for protection, not conquest. The hegemony will see it as the same thing, said General Morrison, appearing on screen beside the president. Every species that has tried to stand up to them has been crushed. Zephys Ka spoke for the first time. Honorable leaders of humanity, we understand your fear. We have watched world after world fall to hegemony force, but we have also watched your species do something no other has done, survive their attacks through unity and determination. We offer not just our technology, but our knowledge of the galaxy. We know the hegemony's weaknesses as well as their strengths. President Martinez was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled. General Morrison, how many refugee ships are we talking about? Approximately 800 vessels, sir. Total population around 2 million. And they're offering to share advanced biotechnology in exchange for protection and a place to live? That's correct, Mr. President. President Martinez looked directly at Zephys Ka through the screen. Ambassador Zephys Ka, on behalf of humanity, I welcome the Cathara people to our space. We'll prepare settlements on New Geneva and begin integration procedures immediately. Zephys Ka's entire body seemed to glow brighter. You accept the consequences of this choice? We've been preparing for war with the hegemony since the day we met them, President Martinez replied. At least now we'll have allies who understand that some things are worth fighting for. As the communication ended, Sarah looked at Zephys Ka. Welcome to the Sol system. I think this is going to change everything. The Cathara ambassador nodded, his skin patterns now moving in what Sarah was learning to recognize as hope. For both our peoples, Commander Chen. For both our peoples. 3 months after the Cathara arrived, New Geneva looked like a completely different world. The barren planet that humans had been slowly terraforming for 20 years now bloomed with strange and beautiful plants. Silver trees stretched toward the sky, their leaves glowing softly at night. Gardens of crystal flowers grew in perfect spirals, each one singing quietly in the wind. Dr. Elena Vasquez walked through one of these gardens with her Cathara partner, Miraleth. Elena was Earth's leading expert on alien biology, but working with the Cathara had taught her that she still had much to learn. Your people think in straight lines, Miraleth was explaining as they stopped beside a pool of living water. Small fish-like creatures swam in it, but Elena knew they were actually tiny biological computers. You see a problem, you build a machine to fix it. We see a problem, we grow a solution. Elena watched the fish computers working. They were processing atmospheric data and adjusting the chemical balance of the pool to help the surrounding plants grow better. But how do you control them? How do you program a living creature? Miraleth touched the water gently. Immediately, the fish computers swam toward her finger. We do not control. We cooperate. We ask, they answer. Your computers do exactly what you tell them. Ours think alongside us. This was the breakthrough Elena had been hoping for. For 3 months, human scientists had struggled to understand Cathara technology. Everything the aliens built was alive, which made it incredibly adaptable, but nearly impossible for humans to use. The biological systems seemed to have their own intelligence. Could you teach our computers to think like yours? Elena asked. Perhaps, Miraleth replied. But first, your computers must learn to live. Meanwhile, in orbit around New Geneva, Admiral Harrison stood on the bridge of Earth's newest ship, the Unity. Beside him, Cathara engineer Vorthus Nee watched human technicians trying to install Cathara biosystems into human technology. This is not working, Vorthus Nee said quietly. Your metal and our living systems fight each other like fire and water. Admiral Harrison sighed. The integration project had been failing for weeks. Human technology relied on precise engineering and predictable responses. Cathara biotechnology was organic, adaptive, and seemed to have moods. The two systems could not work together. What if we don't try to combine them? Harrison asked. What if we build something entirely new? Vorthus Nee's light patterns brightened with interest. Explain. Your ships grow and adapt. Our ships are built to precise specifications. What if we created a ship that could do both? Something that starts as human engineering but can grow Cathara biological systems when needed. A hybrid approach, Vorthus Nee nodded. The foundation would be your metal and circuits, but living systems could grow within it like plants growing in a garden. Yes, this could work. The first hybrid ship took 6 weeks to build. The synthesis looked like a normal human warship from the outside, but inside, organic systems grew along the walls like vines. Cathara biocomputers shared processing power with human electronics. Living armor grew over metal hulls. Biological weapons that fired healing spores instead of destroying energy worked alongside traditional human defensive systems. Captain Marcus Webb took the synthesis on its first test flight. The ship responded to his commands like any human vessel, but he could feel something different. The ship seemed to anticipate his needs. When he thought about changing course, the navigation system was already calculating the new heading. When he worried about engine stress, the biological systems began strengthening the affected areas. It's like the ship is reading my mind, he reported to Admiral Harrison. Not reading, came Vorthus Nee's voice over the communication system. The ship is learning from your emotions and intentions. Cathara biotechnology responds to living presence. Your ship is becoming attuned to you and your crew. The success of the synthesis led to rapid changes across the human-Cathara alliance. More hybrid ships were built. Human colonies began using Cathara growing techniques to terraform worlds faster than ever before. Cathara refugees, grateful for human protection, shared more of their knowledge each day. But the most important development came from an unexpected source. Sefiska had been working with human psychologists to understand why the two species worked so well together. What he discovered surprised everyone. Your species and ours think differently, But we share something important, he explained to a meeting of human and Kythera leaders. Both our peoples believe that protecting others makes us stronger, not weaker. President Martinez, attending the meeting via hologram from Earth, leaned forward. Explain that. Most galactic species believe that helping others weakens you by using resources that could make you more powerful. Zephyska continued. Humans and Kythera both understand that protecting others creates bonds that make everyone stronger. The hegemony sees cooperation as weakness, added Admiral Harrison. They conquer through fear and force, which is why they cannot understand how you defeated their fleet, said Moralith, who had joined the meeting. They expected you to calculate odds and retreat when facing superior force. Instead, you fought harder to protect your colonies and allies. Dr. Vasquez spoke up from her research station on New Geneva. I think I'm beginning to understand something. Kythera biotechnology works through cooperation between different living systems. Human technology works through precise coordination between many parts. When we combine them, we get systems that are both adaptive and reliable, finished Captain Webb from the bridge of the synthesis. My ship doesn't just follow orders, it understands the mission and works toward it. This realization led to the next breakthrough. Instead of just building hybrid ships, the Alliance began creating hybrid strategies. Human tactical planning combined with Kythera biological solutions created entirely new approaches to problems. When long-range scouts reported that hegemony forces were massing near the border, the Alliance was ready with something the galaxy had never seen before. Ships that could adapt their tactics during battle, weapons that healed allies while fighting enemies, and most importantly, crews that fought not just for victory, but for the protection of something worth saving. But the scouts brought other news as well. The hegemony was not just preparing for war against humanity. They were spreading propaganda throughout the galaxy, telling other species that the human Kythera infection was spreading and must be stopped before it corrupted more worlds. They're describing our alliance as a disease, President Martinez said during an emergency council meeting. They're telling the galaxy that cooperation and protection are dangerous ideas that will destroy civilization. Perhaps they are right to be afraid, Zephyska replied quietly. Ideas are more powerful than weapons. If other species see that there is another way to live, the hegemony's power over them will weaken. Admiral Harrison pulled up tactical displays showing hegemony fleet movements. Whatever their motivation, they're preparing for a major assault. Our intelligence suggests they're assembling the largest battle fleet in galactic history. How large? Asked President Martinez. 300 heavy warships, supported by thousands of smaller vessels. They're calling it the Purification Fleet. The room fell silent. Humanity's entire military consisted of 47 ships, including the new hybrid vessels. Even with Kythera biotechnology, the odds seemed impossible. They mean to end this quickly and completely, Zephyska said. No survivors, no negotiations. They will destroy our peoples and then tell the galaxy that this is what happens to species who choose cooperation over conquest. Captain Webb's voice came through the communication system from the synthesis. Admiral, my ship and crew are ready. The biological systems are fully integrated now. We're stronger than we've ever been. All our hybrid ships are reporting the same thing, Harrison replied. The longer they operate, the more effective they become. It's like they're learning and evolving. Dr. Vasquez added her voice from New Geneva. The planetary defenses are ready too. We've grown biological shield systems that can protect the colony cities. And Admiral, we've made one more breakthrough. What kind of breakthrough, Doctor? We've learned to share consciousness temporarily between human and Kythera minds. Not permanently, but during crisis situations. Human determination combined with Kythera adaptability creates something unprecedented. President Martinez stood up slowly. How long before the hegemony fleet arrives? 6 weeks, sir, Harrison replied. Maybe 7 if they stop to gather more forces. Then we have 6 weeks to prepare for the most important battle in galactic history, Martinez decided. Not just for humanity or the Kythera, but for the idea that different species can work together instead of conquering each other. Zephyska's Skin patterns shifted to show deep determination. The galaxy will learn that some things cannot be destroyed by force alone. Hope, cooperation, and the willingness to protect others. These ideas will survive even if we do not. Then we better make sure we do survive, Admiral Harrison said, because I'd like to see what kind of galaxy we can build together. As the meeting ended, the Alliance began its final preparations. On New Geneva, Kythera biotechnicians worked with human engineers to create defenses that could grow and adapt during battle. In Earth shipyards, the news of the human Kythera alliance spread through galactic communication networks faster than anyone expected. Within days, every major species in the galaxy knew that humanity had chosen to protect the Kythera refugees. The reactions were exactly what Zephyska had predicted. On the trading world of Nexus Prime, Zenthi merchants gathered in their crystal conference chambers. Ambassador Thekvor, leader of the Zenthi Merchant Consortium, called for an immediate vote. The humans have made their choice, Thekvor announced to the assembled merchants. They have allied themselves with the defective species. We cannot allow this decision to damage our relationship with the hegemony. Younger merchants tried to argue. The humans have proven themselves in battle 3 times. Their hybrid technology with the Kythera could create new trade opportunities. Trade opportunities? Thekvor's voice turned cold. The hegemony controls 70% of galactic commerce. The humans control less than 1%. This is not a difficult calculation. The vote was unanimous. All existing trade agreements between the Zenthi and humanity were cancelled immediately. Zenthi stations throughout the galaxy received orders to refuse service to human ships. On the ocean world of Tidal, the Arcanian Republic held similar discussions. The Arcanians had always respected human military ability, but protecting the Kythera crossed a line they would not approach. The humans do not understand galactic politics, explained Prime Minister Velandra to her council. They think bravery and good intentions can overcome the realities of power. They will learn otherwise, but we will not share their fate. The Arcanian ambassador to Earth was recalled within hours. All diplomatic contact ceased. When human ships requested passage through Arcanian space, they were turned away without explanation. Even species that had once shown friendship toward humanity began to distance themselves. The mollusk collective, aquatic beings who had traded biological research with Earth scientists, suddenly stopped responding to communications. The geometric assembly, crystalline beings who had admired human engineering, closed their borders to human ships. Captain Marcus Webb experienced this rejection firsthand during a reconnaissance mission in his ship, the Synthesis. He had hoped to gather intelligence on hegemony fleet movements, but every species along his route refused him permission to dock or even pass through their space. Captain, reported his communications officer, Lieutenant Sarah Kim, the Valdris Union just denied our request for passage. They say they cannot provide assistance to infected species. Webb sat in his captain's chair, feeling the ship's biological systems responding to his frustration. The hybrid technology made the Synthesis more than just a vessel. It was almost alive, and it shared its crew's emotions. What about the mining station at Kepler 7, he asked. The operators there have always been neutral. Also denied, sir. They say they've received new instructions from the hegemony about dealing with contaminated vessels. Webb realized what was happening. The hegemony was not just preparing military action against the human Kythera alliance. They were isolating both species completely, cutting them off from the rest of galactic civilization. Set course for the Outer Rim, Webb ordered. If the civilized galaxy won't have us, we'll gather our intelligence from the frontier. But even in the lawless regions beyond hegemony control, Webb found doors closing. Pirates and smugglers who usually cared nothing for galactic politics now refused to deal with human ships. The hegemony's propaganda campaign was working. Back on Earth, President Martinez received reports of the galaxy's rejection with growing anger. In an emergency meeting with his advisors, he struggled to understand how quickly humanity had become isolated. Sir, reported Secretary of Galactic Affairs Jennifer Walsh, it's not just official government positions. Private traders, independent stations, even criminal organizations are avoiding contact with us. The hegemony has somehow convinced the entire galaxy that association with us is dangerous. What exactly are they saying? Martinez asked. Admiral, Harrison pulled up intercepted communications. They're calling the Kythera way of thinking a psychological weapon. They claim that species who work with the Kythera become infected with pacifist ideas that make them weak and vulnerable. They're painting cooperation as a disease, added Dr. Vasquez, joining the meeting from New Geneva. According to their propaganda, the Kythera don't just share technology. They share a mental condition that destroys a species' will to fight and compete. Martinez shook his head in disbelief. They're actually afraid of the idea that species might choose to work together instead of fighting. More than afraid, Harrison replied. Terrified. The hegemony's entire power structure is based on species competing against each other for resources and territory. If that competition ends, their role as galactic enforcers becomes unnecessary. On New Geneva, Zephyska worked with human psychologists to analyze the hegemony's propaganda campaign. What they discovered was more sophisticated than anyone had realized. They are not just spreading lies, Zephyska explained to the research team. They are using fear of change to control other species. Every species in the galaxy has fought for survival at some point. The hegemony reminds them of this struggle and claims that cooperation will make them weak enough to lose future struggles. Dr. Lisa Park, Earth's leading expert on interspecies psychology, studied the propaganda materials. It's brilliant in a horrible way. They're taking the natural fear that every species has of losing their identity and focusing it on the concept of cooperation itself. But they're also creating an opportunity, Miralith added. The Kythera biotechnician had been working closely with human researchers. Species that accept their propaganda reveal their deepest fears. Those fears can become weaknesses in battle. This insight led to an unexpected discovery. While monitoring hegemony communications, human intelligence officers noticed something strange. The species most eager to condemn the human-Kythera alliance were also requesting additional hegemony protection for their own worlds. They're scared, Captain Webb realized during a briefing aboard the Synthesis. The same species that are publicly rejecting us are privately terrified that we might actually succeed. Succeed at what? Asked Lieutenant Kim. At proving there's another way to live, Webb replied. If we can survive the hegemony's attack while maintaining our alliance with the Kythera, it proves that cooperation is stronger than conquest. The hegemony seemed to understand this as well. Intelligence reports indicated that War Prince Karzeth, commander of the Purification Fleet, was under enormous pressure to crush the human-Kythera alliance quickly and completely. The War Prince has issued statements to all hegemony species, Admiral Harrison reported. He promises that the alliance will be destroyed so thoroughly that no trace of cooperative thinking will remain to infect other worlds. But the hegemony's propaganda campaign had an unexpected side effect. While most species rejected the human-Kythera alliance publicly, some began sending secret messages of support. Small trading companies offered to sell supplies through hidden channels. Independent scientists requested copies of research data. Even some government officials privately expressed admiration for humanity's decision to protect the Kythera. We're receiving coded transmissions from 12 different species, Lieutenant Kim reported to Captain Webb. They can't support us openly, but they're rooting for us to survive. That's not enough to change the military situation, Webb replied. But it shows that the hegemony's message isn't convincing everyone. On Earth, President Martinez made a difficult decision. Instead of trying to convince other species to support the alliance, humanity would focus on proving that the alliance could defend itself. If the galaxy wants to judge us based on strength, he announced to the human population, then we'll show them a kind of strength they've never seen before. Not the strength to conquer others, but the strength to protect what we believe in. The response from human colonies was immediate and overwhelming. Volunteers joined the military in record numbers. Civilian engineers worked around the clock to build more hybrid ships. Even children collected materials for the war effort. But the most important development came from an unexpected source. Deep in hegemony space, the Cathera who had been captured and enslaved began to resist in ways their captors could not understand. Captain Webb learned about this during a deep reconnaissance mission near the hegemony core worlds. His ship's biological systems detected faint signals that matched Cathera biosignatures. "There are Cathera on that prison world," reported his science officer, Dr. Chen. "But the signals are wrong somehow." "Wrong how?" "They're too organized, too purposeful. Slaves shouldn't be able to coordinate their biological emissions like this." Webb realized what was happening. They're not just prisoners. They're organizing resistance from inside hegemony territory. Further investigation revealed the truth. Cathera prisoners had been using their biological abilities to sabotage hegemony weapons projects. Instead of creating better weapons, they were growing biological systems that would fail at critical moments. The hegemony had thought they were forcing Cathera biotechnology to serve their military, but the Cathera had been quietly turning those same systems against their captors. The hegemony purification fleet arrived at the edge of the Sol system like a metal storm. 300 heavy warships formed perfect battle formations, their dark hulls blocking out the stars. Admiral Sarah Chen, now commanding the combined human Cathera defense fleet, watched the enemy approach from the bridge of her flagship, the Defiant. "Admiral," reported her tactical officer, "enemy fleet is maintaining standard hegemony attack formation. War Prince Kurzeth's command ship is in the center, protected by his elite guard." Chen nodded. The hegemony always fought the same way. Overwhelming force in organized formations. It had worked for them for centuries across the galaxy. Today, she hoped their predictability would become their weakness. "What's our count?" she asked. 47 ships, including the hybrid vessels," came the reply. "The Synthesis and her sister ships report their biological systems are fully operational. 47 ships against 300. The odds were impossible, but Chen had learned something from the Cathera. Sometimes the impossible just meant you needed to think differently. "Open a channel to all ships," Chen ordered, "and include New Geneva Colony." Moments later, the faces of human and Cathera commanders appeared on her screen. Captain Marcus Webb from the Synthesis, Kithra Fleet Singer Morveth from the bioship Growing Light, President Martinez from Earth, and dozens of others. "Everyone can see what we're facing," Chen began. "The hegemony brought enough ships to destroy a dozen human fleets, but they made one mistake. They think they're fighting the same humans who stumbled into galactic politics 5 years ago." Captain Webb smiled from his bridge. "They have no idea what we've become. The biological systems on all hybrid ships are reporting unprecedented integration levels," added Dr. Vasquez from New Geneva. "The longer our crews work with Cathera biotechnology, the more effective they become." Fleet Singer Morveth's light patterns shifted to show anticipation. "Our ships cannot fire weapons, but we have grown new defensive systems. The enemy has never faced anything like what we can do together." Chen felt a familiar confidence building. It was the same feeling she had experienced in humanity's previous battles with the hegemony, the certainty that protecting others made you fight harder, not weaker. "All ships, take positions for defense pattern Omega," she commanded. "Hybrid, vessels forward, pure human ships supporting, Cathera bioships in protective formation around New Geneva." War Prince Kurzeth's voice echoed across space as his fleet moved into attack range. "Humans and defective allies, you will surrender immediately or face complete annihilation. This is your only warning." Chen opened a response channel. "War Prince, this is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Sol Defense Force. Your warning is noted and rejected. If you want our worlds, you'll have to come and take them." The first phase of the battle began exactly as Chen had expected. Hegemony ships opened fire with massive plasma cannons sending streams of deadly energy toward the human formation. But instead of trying to dodge or absorb the damage, the hybrid ships did something unprecedented. Captain Webb watched from the Synthesis as enemy fire approached his vessel. "Biological systems, prepare adaptive response," he ordered. The ship's living armor began to change. Instead of trying to block the plasma energy, it started to absorb and redirect it. The enemy weapons that should have destroyed the Synthesis instead fed power to its own systems. Impossible, came War Prince Karzeth's voice-over intercepted communications. No species has technology that can absorb our plasma weapons. No single species, Admiral Chen replied on an open channel. But we're not a single species anymore. The second surprise came when the hegemony tried to use their standard tactic of overwhelming the enemy with superior numbers. They sent waves of fighter craft toward the human formation, expecting to break through by sheer force of numbers. Instead, they met something no military strategist in galactic history had ever planned for. The Kythera bioships released clouds of what looked like spores into space. The hegemony fighters flew directly into these clouds, expecting them to be some kind of primitive biological weapon. The spores were weapons, but not in any way the hegemony understood. They attached to enemy ships and began broadcasting directly into the minds of the enemy pilots. "What's happening to my fighters?" demanded War Prince Karzeth. "They're breaking formation," Fleet Singer Morveth explained over the communication channel. "They are experiencing something your species has forgotten, War Prince. They are feeling the emotions of those they are trying to kill. Fear, determination, love for family, willingness to die for others. Your pilots cannot continue fighting when they understand what they are truly attacking." Hundreds of hegemony fighters began to retreat, their pilots overwhelmed by the emotional reality of their targets. For the first time in their military careers, they understood that their enemies were not just targets, but living beings with families, dreams, and reasons to fight. War Prince Karzeth's response was swift and brutal. "All retreating fighters will be fired upon as traitors. Resume attack immediately or face execution." But the damage was done. The hegemony's perfect military discipline had been cracked by something they had never encountered: empathy for their enemies. The third phase of the battle showed the true power of human Kythera cooperation. As hegemony heavy warships moved in for the killing blow, the hybrid vessels revealed their greatest ability. Captain Webb felt the synthesis responding to his crew's determination. The ship wasn't just following orders anymore. It was sharing their will to protect New Geneva and its people. When enemy fire damaged the ship's hull, the biological systems didn't just repair the damage. They adapted, creating new defenses that made the ship stronger than before. "Admiral," Webb reported, "my ship is evolving during the battle. Each enemy attack makes us more resistant to the next one." Dr. Chen from the science station added, "The biological systems are learning from combat experience in real time. They're developing countermeasures faster than the enemy can adapt their tactics." Admiral Chen realized what was happening. Human determination combined with Kythera adaptability was creating something unprecedented. Ships that became stronger during combat instead of weaker. War Prince Karzeth apparently reached the same conclusion. "Focus all fire on the hybrid vessels," he commanded. "Destroy them before they can adapt further." The concentrated firepower of the hegemony fleet struck the human Kythera ships like a hammer. For a moment, it seemed like the War Prince's strategy would work. Several hybrid vessels took massive damage and appeared to be drifting helplessly. But then, something beautiful happened. The damaged ships began to glow with the same light patterns that showed emotions in Kythera skin. The wounded vessels were sharing their damage with the healthy ones, spreading the stress across the entire fleet. "They're not individual ships anymore," Admiral Chen realized. "They're becoming a single organism." Fleet Singer Morveth's bioship Growing Light moved to protect a damaged human vessel, extending living tendrils that merged temporarily with the human ship's hull. The human ship's crew could suddenly feel what the Kythera felt: absolute commitment to protecting others regardless of personal cost. Captain Lisa Torres from the hybrid ship Unity reported the effect immediately. "Admiral, it's like having a second crew working alongside us. The Kythera biological systems are boosting our determination and tactical awareness." The battle raged for 6 days. The hegemony had numerical superiority and more powerful weapons, but they were fighting an enemy that grew stronger with each passing hour. Human ships learned from Kythera wisdom, while Kythera biosystems gained focus from human determination. On the 4th day, War Prince Karzeth made a desperate decision. "All ships, prepare for direct assault on the human homeworld. We will bypass their fleet and attack Earth directly. But Admiral Chen had anticipated this move. As the hegemony fleet broke formation to attack Earth, they discovered that the planet itself had been transformed. Cathara biotechnology had grown defensive systems directly into Earth's orbital stations. Living shields protected the planet while biological weapon systems prepared to defend humanity's birth world. You cannot win, War Prince Karzeth broadcast to the human fleet. Even if you defeat us, the hegemony will send larger fleets. The galaxy will never accept your infection. Admiral Chen's response was broadcast on all frequencies, ensuring that every species in the galaxy could hear. War Prince, we're not fighting to conquer the galaxy. We're fighting to prove that cooperation is stronger than conquest. Every minute we survive proves that species can choose to help each other instead of destroying each other. The final phase began when Captain Webb made a discovery that changed everything. Deep scans of the hegemony fleet revealed that many enemy ships contained Cathara prisoners, being forced to maintain biological weapon systems. Admiral, Webb reported, I'm detecting Cathara life signs on 17 enemy vessels. They're alive, and their biosignatures suggest they're waiting for something. Fleet Singer Morveth understood immediately. They are waiting for us to free them. But more than that, they have been sabotaging enemy systems from within. Dr. Vasquez added, her voice from New Geneva. If we can establish biolink communication with the imprisoned Cathara, they might be able to. 6 months after the Battle of Sol, the galaxy looked completely different. News of the hegemony's defeat had spread to every world, every station, every species that had thought hegemony dominance would last forever. The impossible had happened. Cooperation had defeated conquest. President Martinez stood in the newly constructed council chamber on New Geneva, looking out at representatives from dozens of species. Many of them had refused to even speak to humans just months before. Now, they were asking to join what was being called the Galactic Cooperative. President Martinez, said Ambassador Velquin of the Mollusk Collective, her aquatic suit glowing with nervous patterns. My people wish to formally apologize for our previous rejection of your alliance. We allowed fear to overcome our better judgment. Martinez smiled kindly. Ambassador, fear is understandable. The hegemony ruled through fear for centuries. What matters is that you're here now. Beside him, Zephys Ka's skin patterns showed satisfaction mixed with caution. Many species approach us now, but we must be careful to accept those who truly wish to cooperate, not those who simply seek to join the winning side. The applications to join the cooperative had been flooding in since word spread of the battle's outcome. But the first species to officially join had been the most surprising. 3 weeks after the hegemony retreat, a small fleet of ships had arrived at the Sol system's edge. They were crystalline vessels that looked like they were carved from living gemstones. Admiral Chen had met them personally. I am High Singer Quarith of the Shard Folk, their leader had announced in a voice like musical crystal. My people have been called useless by the galaxy because our technology cannot create weapons. We have heard that you value species for what they can build, not what they can destroy. The Shard Folk, it turned out, had developed computing technology based on living crystal formations. Their systems could process information in ways that organic and mechanical computers could not. When combined with human engineering and Cathara biotechnology, they created something unprecedented, computers that could think, adapt, and grow. Captain Marcus Webb experienced this firsthand during the first upgrade to the synthesis. Shardfolk, crystal computers were integrated into the ship's hybrid biomechanical systems, creating a vessel that was part machine, part organism, and part living crystal. Captain, reported his science officer Dr. Chen, the ship's processing power has increased by a factor of 12. But more than that, it's developing new ways to solve problems. The crystal systems are creating connections between human logic and Cathara intuition. Webb nodded as he felt the ship respond to his thoughts more smoothly than ever before. It's like the ship is becoming truly intelligent, not just following complex programming. The success of the human Cathara Shardfolk integration led to the next major development. Other species that had been dismissed by the hegemony began to approach the cooperative. The Milani, aquatic beings who lived in mobile ocean cities, arrived next. They had been scorned for their inability to fight in space, but their mastery of fluid dynamics and underwater technology proved invaluable for creating new types of spacecraft that could operate in both space and planetary atmospheres. Then came the Veil Runners, nomadic people who had refused to claim territory for generations. The hegemony had seen their wandering lifestyle as primitive, but the cooperative discovered that the Veil Runners had the most advanced intelligence gathering network in the galaxy. They knew everything that happened in every corner of civilized space. Each species brings something unique, Dr. Elena Vasquez explained during a scientific conference on New Geneva. The Kithara show us how to make technology that lives and grows. The Shardfolk teach us to think in new ways. The Milani help us move through any environment. The Veil Runners keep us informed about everything happening in the galaxy. But the most important addition came from an unexpected source. Fleet Singer Morveth was leading a bioship patrol near the former hegemony core worlds when she detected familiar signals. Admiral Chen, she reported from the growing light. I am detecting massive Kithara biosignatures from the prison world of Kithara Prime. There are thousands of our people still alive there. The rescue mission became the Cooperative's first major military operation. Unlike hegemony attacks that relied on overwhelming force, the Cooperative used coordinated abilities from all member species. Veil Runner scouts provided detailed intelligence about guard positions and security systems. Milani ships approached. Underwater through Kithara Prime's vast oceans, Shardfolk crystal computers hacked into hegemony communication networks. Human tactical planning coordinated the entire operation, while Kithara bioships prepared to evacuate the prisoners. The operation succeeded beyond anyone's hopes. Not only were 12,000 Kithara prisoners freed, but many of their hegemony guards chose to surrender rather than fight the cooperative forces. We have heard what you did at Sol, explained former hegemony captain Vel Tharus as he requested asylum. We have seen that there is another way to live, one that does not require crushing others to survive. This became a pattern. As the cooperative, too, grew stronger, more individuals from hegemony species began to defect. They brought valuable intelligence about hegemony weaknesses and locations of other prison worlds. Within 8 months of the Battle of Sol, the cooperative had rescued over 50,000 prisoners from various species and freed entire worlds that had been under hegemony occupation. Each liberation brought new members to the alliance, but the most significant change happened on Earth itself. The planet that had once been humanity's isolated homeworld became the beating heart of galactic cooperation. President Martinez walked through the streets of New Geneva City, marveling at what the planet had become. Kithara gardens grew alongside human architecture. Shardfolk crystal spires reached toward the sky while Milani canals flowed between buildings. Veil Runner market stalls offered goods from across the galaxy. Children of different species played together in parks where the grass sang softly in Kithara harmonies and the flowers changed colors in response to Shardfolk crystal resonance. Human Kithara, Melanie, Shardfolk, and Veil Runner families lived side by side, sharing knowledge and creating new traditions. This is what the hegemony feared most, Zephiska observed as they watched the children play. Not our weapons or our ships, but the simple fact that different species can choose to live together in harmony. The hegemony's response was predictable but increasingly desperate. War Prince Karzeth had been stripped of his rank and exiled after the defeat at Sol. The new hegemony leadership tried different tactics. First, they attempted economic warfare, cutting off trade routes and blockading cooperative worlds. But the cooperative's member species were surprisingly self-sufficient when working together. Kithara biotechnology could grow everything needed for survival, while Shardfolk computers optimized resource distribution perfectly. Then the hegemony tried propaganda campaigns, claiming the cooperative was secretly planning to conquer the galaxy. But their message fell flat when other species could see that cooperative worlds were more peaceful and prosperous than hegemony territories. Finally, the hegemony attempted to create their own cooperative alliances, forcing species to work together, under hegemony control. These efforts failed because forced cooperation lacked the genuine trust and mutual support that made the real cooperative so effective. Admiral Sarah Chen, now Supreme Commander of the Cooperative Defense Force, received reports about the hegemony's declining power with mixed feelings. "Admiral," Captain Webb reported from the synthesis, "our intelligence networks are showing massive defections from hegemony military units. Entire fleets are requesting asylum in cooperative space." "What's our current strength?" Chen asked. "Over 300 ships from 12 different species, plus countless support vessels and orbital installations. But more importantly, we have perfect coordination between all our forces. No single species could match us now." Chen nodded, but her expression remained serious. "The real victory isn't military, Captain. It's proving that the galaxy can work differently. Every species that joins us, every world that chooses cooperation over conquest, that's how we really win." The final proof came during the liberation of Lyrilleth, the original Kythera homeworld. The hegemony had turned it into a fortress, determined to hold at least one symbol of their former power. But when the cooperative fleet arrived, something unprecedented happened. The hegemony defenders, seeing the combined forces of species they had once dismissed as defective or useless, simply laid down their weapons. "We cannot fight this," admitted Hegemony Commander Vorkath as he formally surrendered the planet. "You have shown us something we never understood. Strength does not come from forcing others to serve you. It comes from choosing to serve each other." The ceremony to return Lyrilleth to the Kythera was held 1 year after the Battle of Sol. Representatives from 37 species attended, including former hegemony worlds that had declared independence and requested cooperative protection. Zephys Kai stood before the assembled delegates, his skin glowing with patterns of deep gratitude and hope. "1 year ago, my people came to humanity as refugees, outcasts rejected by the galaxy. Today we stand,